$80 on Amazon. I'm like, are you kidding me? Because I
Which
guess
book?
Michael Crichton wrote the book Westworld. That's what it's based off of. But they kind of went over the top with the series.
I've seen most.
But I
I
thought,
read
well, let me
most
read
of
the
his
book. And it's like, I guess, collector's edition and never reprinted it. So I'm not paying $50 for a Michael Crichton book.
No.
Okay, fine. We are on chapter 10.
Page 134.
Yes, but we are going to skip the first part.
Okay.
Some of it. We're gonna skip around because it gets too esoteric.
No teacher-student bonds for
And
us.
you don't think the rest of this is too esoteric? Just the part
You know, it gets into a lot of technical. When you talk about nahi and netzachod yesod nahi de iman, you're getting into like, issues on the map. You get lost in the map.
I'm just teasing.
Right?
So where we
Yeah,
started.
right. No, let me just refocus my brain here just right now. Okay, chapter 10. So we're starting from here, 137. What parents give their children.
A lot of drama.
This is so heavy. Okay, so we're on chapter.
A lot of drama.
So we're on chapter 10, and what parents give their children. Okay, page 137. I could give you a little bit of the rundown of what's before,
The levush.
but we'll get into it. We did speak about, and it's going to get into it in this section, okay? And this is going to be something totally esoteric also. I just like as much as I want to, don't get too esoteric. We can't help but not being esoteric, okay?
Right.
But we spoke at the beginning, actually in the beginning of the chapter, okay? It does say a father gives a portion of his soul to the son, and the teacher gives part of his spirit to the student. Okay? You might as well go to the beginning of 134. Maybe we'll just do the main, we won't do the explanation.
134.
Okay? Yeah. It makes no difference if a man marries his soulmate or if he takes another woman who is not his soulmate. It can happen. Okay? A person can marry somebody who's not his soulmate. Okay? He can father children that are sparks of souls from his own root or from a different root. So a person can have a child. We always want to know who is a reincarnation of who. It would be wonderful. Okay? And we've touched upon another case like that last week, who is a reincarnation, and we have the whole women thing. The Ebor can actually come born in to be the daughter. Okay? But here we're talking about whether you can draw down a spark from a different root, as we know that we all have roots. Okay? And then just, skip the Perush. Okay? The father gives a portion of his soul to his children. This portion becomes an exterior garment to the soul of the son. Okay? Exterior garment. As we know, and we've learned this before, okay, that the father actually and the mother, we're going to see soon, give a portion of themselves to the children, and it has to do with the garments. That no soul comes into this world without a garment, a spiritual garment. We do look at the body as a garment, but then there's something else more sublime, this garment, okay? So I'm not going to get into the less than 500 levels of difference of soul, because it's very complicated, but, if they're connected or not at the end. So now let's go back to 137. Section 2, what parents give their children. The surrounding light of a person comes from his father. That's called what's called surrounding light. That's called or makif. There's two different types of light that we're going to discover in Kabbalistic wisdom. It's called or makif, surrounding light. And then there was called or pnimi, internal light. The internal light is from his mother. And the influence these lights have upon the children is described. Okay? The mother and father both give something. Yes?
What is internal light called again?
Or panimi. Inner light. He's going to describe it pretty good here. But it's going to be very abstract and esoteric-like. Okay? Okay. We will speak further about children born to fathers. Obviously, children are born to fathers and mothers. I would think so. I hope they don't come from an armadillo, okay, or spawned from the earth. But the Rav is specifying here the father only. The reason will become clear at the end of this section when he talks about this person whose name is Asael, okay? And who's I think he's the son of Yoav, okay? In some children, the dominating driving force comes from the father, and sometimes to an extreme degree. As we're going to see, because there's two forces which are contributing to the garment of the child, and the question is which is going to dominate, okay? Which influence. When a man unites with his wife in intimacy, from the energy of the father there is drawn the son's surrounding light. Also, the aspect of internal light is drawn from the energy of the mother. So he's going to get into a perush here, but you just have to start to become familiar with the concept of surrounding light versus an inner light. And he's going to give a great idea here. It was mentioned earlier that all things consist of two aspects, light and vessel. That's basic 101 in Kabbalah. Always everything is either light or vessel. Okay? Just simply put, our minds are a vessel. And when we get an idea, an aha moment, I see the light, okay, and the question is, can you hold on to that concept? Yeah. Do you have a vessel for that concept? Okay? Some people, if they win the lottery, that's too much light. They can't hold on, and it results in a breakdown of their lives. Okay? So we have light and vessel. That's just like in terms of, let's say, how to understand it more in a physical way. Is us being able to grasp a concept. Okay? A light, an illumination. Okay? We are the vessels and the illumination is the light. These two also consist of two aspects each, the light and the vessel. Okay? In other words, light has two aspects and vessel has two aspects. And there is the internal part of the vessel and the external part. Okay, so let's say if I have a cup. This is perfect. I'm just going to borrow this. I hate to be so, anthropomorphic here. But as we see, a simple cup has an internal part of a cup and it has an external part of a cup. Okay? So here, similarly, there are two aspects of light that you're really dependent upon because of the vessel itself. And they are the internal light and the surrounding light. Because there's got to be something of light that goes inside the cup. And then there's got to be light which clings outside of the vessel. The internal light is the aspect of light that enters into the vessel. It is contained within the vessel under pressure because it cannot easily expand outward. It's stuck inside. It's limited. It has a limited, whatever light, whatever you put inside the cup is going to be limited to the dimensions of the cup itself. Okay? I'll give you back your coffee. Okay? It is contained within the vessel under pressure because it cannot easily expand outward. The surrounding light, on the other hand, does not enter into the vessel but hovers around it. This is a really huge dynamic in terms of our soul. We have levels of our soul that cannot be contained within our bodies. We spoke about this before. You have a nefesh, mostly anchored in the liver and blood. You have the next level, which is a ruach, anchored in the heart, level up, the emotions. And then you'll have the level of really neshama, just basically, and that's anchored through the mind. But then there are two different levels of soul called peripheral. They can't. There are two out there, baby. Okay? There's no way that they can anchor themselves inside. So they hover. Okay? Kind of like an aura. I don't want to say it is the aura. Okay? The aura is too physical. If you could take a picture of it, it ain't it. Okay? Oh, I got pictures of auras. Yeah, that's it. I don't think so. Okay? It might be an indication of something of an energy, okay, that comes from within the body, but that's not your peripheral. It's huge. This extends to universes beyond. But this is why, simply put, and sometimes in our lives, where we all of a sudden, like, we're going through something, we don't know how it's going to work, and we don't see the answer, and all of a sudden, it pops in, right? Okay? So that comes from the higher realm into the lower realm. Comes from the peripheral aspect of ourselves, okay? Or sometimes you get just some kind of subtle idea, and it comes in and out, and it's a subtle idea, and then sometimes you'll entertain it a little bit more, then you internalize it a little bit more. So it comes from out there, and then slowly, gradually, it gets embedded into your head, and then maybe you'll develop it, and it could come in the form of any ideas, okay? Just the idea comes from out there, and then it comes and slowly settles inside. So the surrounding light, on the other hand, does not enter into the vessel, but hovers around it. It is much less concentrated because it is not contained within the limited space of the vessel, like our example here, right? Totally around, right? There's no limitations for this light, okay? Although it is always connected and associated with the vessel and always shines upon it. Also, the amount of light that enters into the vessel is always much more limited than the surrounding light, which is not forced into a limited space. Sometimes you just can't put words on things. Have you ever tried? When I came back from Uman, they're going, how was your experience in Rabbi Nachman Uman and Rosh Hashanah? I'm like, and I tried and I fumble and I try and I try. I'm like, realize, no, I can't. It can't be described, right? And sometimes an experience can't be described, and that's okay. That's Sichot Aran, right? Torah 1. It's like, if you look in the Sichot Aran conversations with Rabbi Nachman, the very first thing he speaks about is your relationship with God. If somebody asks you about how your relationship with God is, the first answer is, can't be put into words. Okay? Therefore, the surrounding light is considered greater and of a higher quality than the internal light. That is why it is the surrounding light that brings about miracles, because it comes from something way beyond. Whereas normal, everyday affairs are in the province of the internal light. That helps us a little bit more, okay? When you grasp something and you don't know where it came from, that's coming from the surrounding light. When something helps you basically in terms of your everyday functioning experience, that's internal light. The process of transmission from parent to son is the same, irrespective of whether it is surrounding light or internal light. The light is clothed within what we call the nahi, that's where I wanted to avoid, which means the lower part of the soul of the parent. Nahi is netzach hod yesod. If anybody understands the Kabbalistic wisdom in terms of the array of the sfirot, the lower part of the sfirot is what is extending to the level below it, beneath it. Okay, we call it netzach hod yesod of the parent, which we'll call it the lower aspects of the soul of the parent, just to have it easier. Okay? Now, since the surrounding light is greater, it is associated with the sphera of the right side, which is also the higher one, called Chachma and Abba, Father. Correspondingly, the internal light is associated with Bina, who is called Ima, Mother. I don't bring my charts. I remember have those all around, those charts. As we know, if those who know, anybody have the sphere chart? No. Okay, no sphere chart around. Okay. The Sfirot are basically divided into, and by the way, here's your commercial, right? Wednesday night, 7 o'clock, we're starting all over again, Kabbalah 101, the very beginning for the clueless and curious. Clueless and curious, okay, that's a good one. Like Fast and Furious, we have clueless and curious, okay? So we have the starting all over again in the very beginning just to get the 101 stuff. Okay, and if you can't come, 7 o'clock at Torch Center, Wednesday evenings, so then you can at least tune in on Facebook, okay? So the sphere of the right side versus the sphere of the left side. The spherot have usually what we call simply 3 columns. The right side is always associated with kindness. Wisdom is the highest. It extends all the way down. And then you'll have the left side, which starts from Ima, and that extends all the way down. That's usually associated with din, judgment, or constriction. You have a balance. You have to, and then the middle column, which is with the path we always seek to balance ourselves with, is you got to have the combination of both in the right balance. You can't do too much love, and you can't do too much discipline. Okay, so you have to have the right combination. It's always understood, usually, basically, very simply, as when we look at chachma or wisdom or Abba or father. That's what we call the synapse that goes off in the person's right side of the brain, the influx of a great idea. And then that great idea, you want to go ahead and now put it into the right perspective, or, you want to churn it out. Like the great idea, the great concept that we always give is like, you get an idea, build a house. I want to build a house, right? So that's a great idea. The light bulb goes off in the head. But then you have to go ahead and flush out the idea and put it in the delineation. You got to go, how many rooms, right? How big? How many stories? Where's the laundry room? Okay? So you got to go ahead and flush out those ideas. That's called bina, understanding. Just like a right side of a left side and a right side of our brain. The right side is the more associated with, I believe, if I'm a lefty, that's my right side, is more the spatial, creative, non-linear. The left side of the brain, which usually works the right side of the body, usually is the more linear, mathematic, right? One is the more artistic, one is the more linear. I spoke with a neurologist, and he says it's not like that anymore because basically it's all whatever.
Not like that anymore?
Well, he
Our
he came from a lot of but I guess studies determine that in your right side you also have left, and then the left also has right, and Kabbalists already knew
What do you
that
think
ahead
of
of
that?
time. Anyway,
What if
Sure,
you're
it's
ambidextrous?
Oh,
then you have both working.
I'm asking what he thinks.
Okay.
There's a difference between the male and the female brain, just to start with.
Oh, we know that once game gave
And
us
the
a great,
connections are different, and it's much thicker for the female, they're better connected.
better, always. Women are not supposed to wear tefillin. Not supposed to. The women want to, some women
They can if they want.
no. But you know why? My opinion is it's a degradation of who they are. Because you know why? Their wiring is internal. We need to be reminded there's God all the time. We are
But if
so
they say
forgetful
the
and so
Shema-
spaced out.
If they say the Shema, okay.
Say the Yes, but the
the
idea
same
here is
thing?
"Vayula totafot beinenecha." They're internal. You understand? Tefillin are a transformer box. It takes from a infinite voltage to transform it to an internal voltage. Peripheral light, surrounding light, you need something to get it to the internal. Okay? Women, their transformer, it's built in. They don't need it. Their tefillin is built in. For them to put on external would be like putting two transformers. It's like, what are you doing? You are a Maserati. You are not a Volkswagen. Okay? Okay? Just to say like that. Well, that's my opinion. There are rabbis who, dance on the fence a lot, trying to go like this and explain them, whatever. Okay, that's my explanation. Okay? The idea really is mother is left, mother is judgment, mother, that energy of female is always coming from, right? You want to go on a trip? Okay, what are you bringing on the trip? How long are you going on the trip? You got to answer questions. You just want to go out? Who are you going out with? When are you coming back? What's your phone number? Who are you with? What's their phone number? And all these questions need to be answered. Okay?
And the dad?
Dad is, yeah, go ahead, have a good time. No delineation, complete peripheral light.
That's
So whatever.
That's because he knows the wife is taking care of the rest.
Hopefully, and even if not, now, at the time of their union, I shouldn't be doing this, but hey, I don't hold back anyway, so, whatever. Now, at the time of their unification, we're talking about the parents, it is possible that both parents will concentrate upon the mitzvah of holiness. Halavai! That means if it could only be. Okay? And this is where we come to welcome to planet oppression. Okay? Yes, the Torah is in exile, and lots have not been taught and need to be taught, and it's a sad situation, as we're going to see right now. Okay? In other words, when a couple is together, they're supposed to concentrate upon the mitzvah and holiness. We do associate the house is like the mini temple, right? We know that. The table is like the altar that you offer your sacrifices to when you have guests and you eat the food, right? When you light the Shabbos candles, that's the holy menorah, right? And in the kitchen, it's the slaughterhouse where you prepare the food that's going to go on the altar. Every place in the house is like a little temple. And the Holy of Holies, the temple has a Holy of Holies, that's the bedroom. Okay? Holy of holies. Okay? The mitzvah is what we have been commanded, right? And God said to them, be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth and subdue it. The intimacy that derives from the long-term relationship of husband and wife is also considered by many to be part of the completion of the mitzvah. Interesting how he says long-term relationship as opposed to short-term relationship.
What does it mean, subdue it? Subdue the
Okay,
earth?
usually yes, we're supposed to be the people who are in charge of the earth, okay? Don't let the animals take over. Some people would like their dogs to run their lives, okay? Some people would, but it's not how it's supposed to be, okay? We're supposed to be calling the shots, okay? And there's other esoteric meanings to subdue it, okay? Okay, but I'm not going to go into it. The mitzvah should be done in purity and holiness, and in that way it increases the holiness of husband and wife, and it increases the holiness throughout the world. It's a tikkun of the world. It's not just, the big thing in Kabbalah that people don't quite grasp is that we are all micros of the macro. You understand? Our little actions that we think that are so insignificant in the small corners of our universe have tremendous powerful effects throughout the entire universe, tremendous influence. A person cannot think, what does God care if I do this or do that? It's never that case. Never. That was Avram Avinu's main thing, and that's why they wanted to destroy him. Okay? Avram was no. Everything matters. We are huge, huge influences in the entire universe. Okay? This is a very important subject in the Kabbalah, but it is not the place to even begin with. Thank you, Rabbi. Okay? Gets me. Whew. Okay, in addition to the laws of family purity that must be known, the reader may also refer to the Shulchan Aruch and the Even HaEzer 25, Chav Hey, concerning the set and setting of the mitzvah, and to the important Kabbalistic book ascribed to the Ramban Nachmanides called Dat Kedusha. You do have something in the end here. It's on C, page C, okay, that he does bring here. We're not going to get into it. We'll save it for your own reading. Actually, it's appendix number 1. Okay, it brings down all the ins and outs of basically what you can need to know in the very beginning, but it's only it's only a little tip of the iceberg, okay? But, of course, save that for your own reading and your own time, and, of course, you can send me emails later, okay? Good luck, if you get an answer. Okay, anyways, okay? Now, the Rav is adding here, I am trying to, God willing, do a podcast one day, which will lay out the entire whole sequence of everything what people need to know, okay? So because we need to fix the planet, and it is a big, huge thing, I think, to fix the planet, as we're going to see, okay? Now where I am. Now the Rav is adding here the well-known Kabbalistic rule that when a mitzvah is performed with purity and holiness and proper thoughts, then it also increases the holiness of the offspring. Another important associated Kabbalistic rule is that the characteristic and qualities of the children depend upon the thoughts and behavior of the parents at the time of conception. In other words, if they had crude thoughts, right, it's going to affect this lavush, this garment of the child, and then for this child's ability to express his or her potential is going to be seriously impeded with all kinds of psychological problems and evil inclinations and all kinds of stuff. Okay? Alternatively, the concentration of both of them may not be for the sake of mitzvah, but for their own pleasure or for evil. God forbid. Marital intimacy without pleasure is just as bad as when the partners are only thinking about satisfying their own physical desire for stimulation and pleasure. Indeed, children born from intercourse where there was no pleasure are likely to be damaged physically or mentally. There was a case like that. My Rosh Hashiva, Zechuso Yagain Aleinu, he brought down, he told us that there was this one Rav, because, they don't want to get involved in the physical pleasures, right? They need to abstain. They want to be holy, so they abstain from physical pleasures. There are such people like that. So he basically, I don't know how he was able to go ahead and do the mitzvah without getting physical pleasure or reduce the physical pleasure. The kid was born deformed. Okay?
I don't know how that's possible.
They don't know how that's possible?
I don't know how it's possible not to have that physical pleasure from
Like
release.
I don't know how he reduced it or whatever it was. You know, I don't, like I say,
What if like
whatever.
the kid is like conceived from rape? Then that's definitely not physical pleasure from the woman's part. So the kid then comes out really bad, or what, like deformed, or
There's going to be a garment issue. There's going to be an issue. I'm not saying there's not an issue, because you know something, you never know, because it could be that the soul could be so powerful that it has to overcome, that it's able to overcome the obstacles. Okay, but there's going to be obstacles. Okay, but I'm just telling you, like and then there is another rabbi. There is a whole sect of Hasidim, and it's a big deal. It is. I'm not going to mention it, but their Rebbe from before the Rebbe, one of their leaders, you know, he wanted to make himself more holier, so he decided he's for himself is going to behave this way. I'm only going to do it on mikveh night because the women go to the mikveh once a month. He's only going to conduct mikveh night. It's going to be a quick issue, very quick, and that's it. And he wouldn't touch his wife at all the rest of the whole month, and therefore all of the Hasidim, they want to be holy too. They want to be just like their Rebbe, and they're imitating him, and they turned it part of their internalized custom and their way of living. It's a huge, huge problem because some of the women are going crazy because that's what. But of course, the ones who are, you know, whatever, big thing, big huge issue. Okay. It's not what it's supposed to be.
And this says without pleasure. Is that for both partners or one of them?
Kind of like what she's asking. Of course, if it's for one, it's going to be for the other, because if the man is in and out, right, before, you know, Jack Diddley, then, where do you go from there?
Just lay back and think of England.
Listen, you know, who knows what he's thinking about baseball? I don't know. I forgot what my Rosh Yeshiva said, how a guy goes ahead and does the act without having pleasure from it. Okay, but then again, you know, if a person really wants, then, you know, of course, set their mind to it.
At gunpoint. He did it at gunpoint.
Okay, marital intimacy without pleasure, we did that. Okay? On the other hand, the desire of the partners have for each other is a positive factor in the determination of the child's level of intelligence. Okay? In other words, again, on the other hand, the desire that the partners have for each other is a positive factor in the determination of the child's level of intelligence. So you have to have desire. Otherwise, the kid's going to be born. However, when their thoughts and concentration are only on physical pleasure, we're not saying physical pleasure and, you can do this and that, okay? Then the quality of unification plummets downwards towards zero. In addition, such people are likely to do other things that are wrong in the preparation for their meeting, in the setting of intimacy, and in the human dynamics of their relationship. Thus, their unification can actually eventually take place in the realm of evil. God forbid they give birth to devils. Okay? Those little devils. Okay? We've all met them. Okay?
yeah.
Alternatively, the concentration... But then again, I have to reiterate this, and now you listen to me and listen to me good.
So this,
If you ever see those little devils, you don't go, I know what you guys were thinking.
Yep.
Okay? You don't point fingers. You don't say, okay, I know what you guys were up to when you guys had... Okay?
Here comes the answer to my question on this next few.
Thank you. Sometimes it just pays to be patient and the answer comes. Alternatively, the concentration of the father might be for good, whereas that of the mother is bad, or vice versa. Okay, what happens if one is kosher and the other one is not so kosher? What happens? So here we go. Boy, okay, I've really, read this and I'm like, oh, come on, man, Arizal, got to give us a tikkun for this. I don't know the tikkun. One thing the tikkun is emunah. Emunah. You have to have faith that, listen, what happens. What we can do is from now on and try to fix the world. Okay? If both of them are thinking about the holiness of the mitzvah, then the child will be a perfect tzaddik in surrounding light. Ding! Okay? surrounding light and in internal light. If the intentions of both of them were for evil purposes, then the child will be completely evil in surrounding light and internal light. Okay? In other words, the guy doesn't know how to do evil, and then the thought will come on how to be a devil. Okay? Right? Surrounding light, peripheral idea, how to mess up the world, and then he knows that, and then he got the intention. If the father's intentions were for good, but that of the mother was bad, then the surrounding light of the child will be righteous, but the internal light will be wicked. With the passage of time, the surrounding light will overcome the internal light, and he will become completely righteous. And this is because the surrounding light includes the internal light, and it is the surrounding light will overturn to purify it. In other words, let's look at this. Let's look at this as being completely an empty vessel. So you got to talk about now, here comes the light. The light's going to come. It's the same light that's going to come. Some is going to go in, and some is going to just hang out outside. Right? So it really is the same light. So eventually, if, whatever's internal light becomes crude because of what the mother was thinking, but the external light is going to influence even that, because eventually in the root form, they were all part of the same light and same source. Okay? The surrounding light includes the internal light because they were originally like one light. Some of the original light entered into the vessel, but most of it remained outside. Thus, the light that is inside the vessel was once included within the great light that remained outside, like I just described to you. Since the surrounding light is greater than the internal light, the former will conquer the latter and change it entirely, if necessary, into something good. Why? I don't know why he says if necessary. Sometimes it's not necessary. The quality of the two lights, in turn, will influence the child's character and behavior. And even many of the things that will happen to him throughout his life, because Hashem wants to fix every vessel. Hashem is constantly involved in doing a tikkun, a rectification, because the vessel, we don't forget, everything about Kabbalah is going from a crude vessel to becoming a refined vessel. So if the vessel is crude, with all of its crudeness because of what the parents were thinking or what they were going through, this one or that one or that one or this one, right? The child is born with what we'll call in Yiddish a pekel. That means certain character flaws and behavioral habits. Okay? So therefore it will determine what was going to happen to him in life. Hashem has to bring certain circumstances to this person to try to bang him into the right way and get the idea and grasp what he needs to grasp. Everything comes from heaven except fear of heaven. We know this, right? Everything comes from heaven except fear of heaven. But what does that mean, fear of heaven? Which means your reaction to it. How are you going to react? Which really, fear of heaven, translated by Yisrael Salanter, the Musar master, means emunah, faith. In other words, everything comes from heaven except what you bring to what's going to happen to you. Are you going to come from an attitude of faith, that it comes from God, it's for the absolute good, there's a reason for it, or you're going to resist and get angry and whatever and have a temper tantrum?
He wrote Emunah and Yirah.
He did. Okay, thank you. Okay? Please tell me where I am.
Nevertheless.
Nevertheless.
Nevertheless, it seems from the following words of the Rav that the situation is not clear-cut, black and white. There are degrees, there are other factors. If you want to know if the power of the father or of the mother will dominate, then you can recognize it by the lightness or the heaviness of the child.
Like fat?
No, not heavy, fat versus skinny.
No, personality.
You're going to see it, right? Do you know people who are light? Do you never met a person who's heavy?
Yeah.
It's like you try to be like light and jokey with them, and they're...
Yeah.
New York people are like that, right? Hi, shalom.
What kind of people? I'm from New York. Be
New York
careful.
people.
You made it out.
I did.
Escape from New York, right?
Yes.
But, right? And some people in California are all light,
Yes.
right? Hi, right? So you wonder, right? Until you cross them a certain way, until you disagree with them.
Then they're heavy.
Then they're real heavy. Then you're the enemy and they have to kill you.
Well,
And all of a sudden, like,
they-
what happened? What changed? Why are you coming after me with that axe?
They-
Okay?
Because they migrated from New York to California.
Exactly. Okay? If you want to know if the power of the father or the mother will dominate, you can recognize it by the lightness or heaviness of the son, of the child. Right? Light or heavy. Okay? You know this. You can feel it. Okay? It is not clear-cut that the power of the father always dominates. There are other factors that alter the determination. It is possible for the power of the mother to sometimes dominate. These other factors, however, are not the subject of the Rav here. Rather, he wants to describe now how it can be known if the light coming from the father will dominate or vice versa, and the consequences upon the child. Okay, here we go. The internal light is limited and it is not dynamic, but the surrounding light moves around outside and propels a person to the place that it wants. Consequently, if you see a person who is light like an eagle and runs like a deer, that's from the Mishnah in Pirkei Avot, okay? Have a kalkanesher, right? Have a kalkanesher, right? Kalkanesher, no, have a, is a kalkanesher ratzkatzvi. In all the activities and quick in all his work, it is because the surrounding light that comes from the Father's energy dominates over him. Like Yehuda ben Tema says, be bold like a be bold like a leopard, right? Az kanamer, right? Kal kanesher, ratz katzvi v'gibor ka'ari. Be bold like a leopard, light like an eagle, swift as a deer, and strong like a lion to do the will of your Father who is in heaven. Okay?
I thought this referred to the human.
This is
father. No, the previous, all this that we've been reading.
Yes, everything has to do with the Father, but here, he just brings a source where the rabbi gets light like an eagle and run like a deer.
But then he
Okay.
relates it to Father in heaven, God.
Because really, we have to they say if the Torah was not given to us from Sinai, we'd have learned the Torah from the animals. And it goes through a couple of examples. Cleanliness from a cat, not to steal from a lion, industriousness not to steal from the ants, and to be industrious from the ants.
I didn't know that.
Right? Yeah. So you'd learn it from the animals. And we actually, our very first halacha in the code of Jewish law, the very first, right? Does everybody know the number one law is? Number one, very first, you open up the law books, right? What?
Shaviti.
No, that's in the Ramah. What does the Shulchan Aruch Rav say? Right? Hiskaver ka'ari, la'amod baboker la'avodas boro. Be strong like a lion to wake in the morning to serve the Creator. Okay, you have to be strong like a lion. How does a lion get up? When's the last time you saw a lion get up?
They get
National
lazy, though. They're
Geographic.
lazy.
I haven't seen the lion in a long time. I've seen the
You
lion.
go to the zoo and is he going to be up today? He's sleeping again. Right? And then they get in the...
Maybe they didn't see lions back then.
No, it's something different. The gevura is an attitude, right? You have to wake up with the attitude of strength, of inner strength within you. You have to know who you are in the world, okay? So that's where the gevura is, that you can change the world today. Today is a good change. Today is a good day to bring redemption, okay? Imagine yourself saying that, okay? Really, the Gemara simply brings down, you have to incite your Yetzer Tov, your good inclination, against your evil inclination. In other words, you wake up and pick a fight. Okay? In other words, you be proactive against your evil inclination, because if you're like lazy and sleepy, your evil inclination is going to be right there ahead of you 3 steps, and he's already got the edge on the game. So you have to wake up, be like a lion, and you get the...
Like a tiger.
Great story of the Havetz Chaim, Rabbi Yisrael Meir Kagan, right? Leader of the generation before World War II. Okay? He was, they wake up early. You talk about 4 or 5 in the morning, and it's the winter, right? And there's no central heating, okay? And he's got his blanket, and it's 4, and it's snowing, and it's blizzardy outside. And he hears a voice inside his head when he wakes up, and it says, "You're old, man. Spend it. It's in a warm bed. Stand there, chill let yourself rest for a little while. It's too early for you to get up. It's so early." And he says back, he said, because obviously it's his evil inclination talking. He says, "What are you doing up so early?" Right? Right? No way, right? On the other hand, if you see someone, here we go. If you see someone who is lazy and moves heavily, it shows that it is the internal light from the mother side that is dominant. Now is the time where the women got to throw something at me. Okay? What are you talking about? Okay? It shows that it is the internal light from the mother side that is dominant. So if you get a lazy schlub for a kid, right? The question is, Rabbi, what's the tikkun? Okay? What's the tikkun? Okay? But that doesn't mean you see every person who's lazy. Mm-hmm. No pointing fingers. Now, everything goes according to their deeds. By which I mean that if the father's intention at the time of intercourse was for the mitzvah, then this child will be quick to do the work of heaven. And he will be very great in Torah. However, if the child's intentions were only for his own enjoyment, if the father's intentions were only for his own enjoyment, then he will be quick in the tasks of the world. When it comes time to do a mitzvah, to mañana. But when it comes time to check out the stock market, right? He'll be really motivated. Okay? Hashem help us. Okay? The opposite is also true. If he is slow moving, when his mother's intention was for the mitzvah, then he will be lazy to do the work of this world, which is kind of like a good thing. It's okay to be lazy to do the things of this world, unless it's needed. If her concentration was upon the mitzvah, then the son will be lazy in the work of heaven. That's kind of dynamic. In other words, if her intention was not for the mitzvah, then the influence of the child will be a lazy style of influence, okay? Will have to do with spiritual matters. Okay, in other words, in which area is the child lazy or sluggish in? And it doesn't have to be a total lazy, like they wake up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. It could be just a little bit of a delay. It just could be a little bit of holding off. Okay? And a person can even check themselves out. Okay? But don't go to your parents and go, "Yeah, guys, you blew it. I'm ruined for life because I'm lazy. I want to do mitzvahs because you." Okay? Don't go and go Oprah and sue your parents.
Or Dr. Phil.
Or Dr. Phil. You mean at the time of your conception, you were thinking X. Yes, Dr. Phil. I can see it now. Ah! Okay. Dr. Phil don't know this. Okay. All right. Maybe if he did, we'd have bigger problems. Okay. The children of the first group are those heavily influenced by the surrounding light. The second are those influenced by the eternal light. So what's going to be the bigger influence? So there could be a time where the internal light is going to influence. Both are going to influence, and this is all talking about the garment, the specifics of the garment of the child that is born. Okay? Because the garment of the soul that comes in is a major influence on the person. Okay? This is the reason that Asael, the brother of Yoav, was unfathomably light upon his feet. The story of Asael, the brother of Yoav, is told in chapter 2 of the Shmuel Beit. The sages say that he could run over the stalks of grass without bending them. Go figure.
Shmuel's sons?
No, this is Yoav.
Who was that?
Yoav was the general of King David.
Okay.
Okay? Wasn't good in the end. He wasn't he wasn't so cool in the end. Because he killed Avshalom and he killed Avner. He did some of his own renegade campaigns.
He wasn't a good person.
No. But his brother, I don't know what his father was thinking, because his brother, can you imagine a guy running over a field of stalks, and he doesn't like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, or whatever where they're like going over the trees and they're not even touching the trees and whatever weird kind of kung fu stuff. Okay. In any case, okay, in other words, he ran so swiftly that the weight never came to rest upon the surface before it could rest, right? He was already gone from there. Okay, it seems to us that the sages are speaking here metaphorically. However, the Rav is insisting that we take their words literally. Everybody wants to go metaphoric. No, it's not literal. He was running across this field, right, and not bending the stalks at all. But no, that's not what he says. Definitely a midrash of the sages cannot digress from its simple meaning. This is the Arizal says this. Okay? A midrash of the sages cannot digress from its simple meaning. However, with what was mentioned here, it is understandable. The energy of his father was over-dominating, and there was no material energy within him at all. The surrounding light was totally augmented within him, and he was almost able to fly through the air. Okay? It seems to me that the point of the Rav here is to teach that high magnitudes of surrounding light combined with the power of kavanah and thought, with the proper kavanah and thought patterns at the time of conception, can produce a power capable of overriding natural law and provide an instrument for wondrous miracles.
Very good.
Okay? So the idea really here is, just one second, just want to go, what's our time? We're good. All right, so the idea that he wants to say is, and really it needs for a huge other subject, big stuff, that what I want to say is because most people don't not know the laws about how to sanctify oneself at the time of relations, both usually in the world, but let's say if you're a yeshiva guy, religious from birth, and then of course they don't study it while you're single because they don't want you to have bad thoughts, okay? They want you to focus on your studies, and you should be, right? And therefore they only really will start to educate a person only when they're engaged. Now usually they're engaged never more than 2 months. Usually it's a once-a-week class. And then plus you have to go through all of the laws of Nida. The laws of Nida is a law of a woman in her menstrual cycle, and it's a huge body of laws that a person has to go ahead and go through. That alone is huge. To go through in a 2-month period, almost not even, you scratch the surface. And then all of the laws of intimacy and what a person has to think about, and all those, huge. It's big. There are books about this.
So I'm not really sure I understand.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I understand that the husband and wife are thinking about a mitzvah when they have relations.
In other words, they're thinking about bringing, every time, really, it brings that in another place of, anytime, even if you're not with the intention of having a child, but a person is having intimacy, they are contributing to bringing a soul into the world. In other words, they're giving birth to a soul.
Yeah, but something has to be going on up here.
Okay, so then there's a lot that has to be going on up here, right?
Yeah, well,
There's a lot that nobody knows about. Nobody.
Okay.
They don't, like I said, we say, and I always teach this, that the Torah is in exile. Okay? What does that mean by the Torah is in exile? A lot of things are not taught in the right way, in the right emphasis. Okay? So, and supposedly now, because everybody, most of the world now these days, because of so much promiscuity in the world, so therefore we want to keep our Bachurim holy. And in doing that, so therefore we hold back the wisdom from them. And so we don't want to tell them because we don't want them having like improper thoughts. And yet here we have to tell them how to have proper thoughts. We only wait until they're engaged, when they're about to be married. And then we basically, like that, we got to kind of like, mine was a once-a-week class. And, and it was like, I think it's 3, 4, 5 times. We had a talk, and it wasn't really the whole rundown. They give you a rundown. It was quite interesting, okay? Because there's a lot to study. Like I say, this is not the scope of what I can do right now because of the company, okay? But the idea really here is, the problem is obviously what you see here is if you don't have the right thoughts, you're going to give rise to a child that is going to have issues and challenges. So doesn't it make sense to retrain, educate people to know what to think, to know how this should be, in order that when they give birth, that they will have a super child. Okay? So wouldn't you, so now meanwhile we're walking around in planet oppression because we're all oppressed by our evil inclinations because of our parents basically were, and it's not their fault, we're not educated. Okay? Obviously the parents weren't educated, right? You can't blame them. We don't understand. God runs the world and it's meant to be. So, but obviously what it really hits me with, which is, makes sense that people from now on should be educated, because then what kind of child are you going to produce with a less evil inclination? Hey, even if you want to say, oh yeah, this is just too extreme for me, Rabbi. You know, you're telling me they're lazy because of the man's, it's worth a shot.
So can you
It's worth a shot.
Could you give an example of a mitzvah or 2 or 3 that one would have to be thinking about when they had relations? I can't really understand.
You think of the name of God, of Yud Kei Vav Kei in your mind.
Okay, that'll do.
Okay?
That's fine.
So how many years do you think like a guy into his marriage until he gets it? Like these are the thoughts I need to have. Like until he understands.
After he has 5 devils.
1 devil, 2 devil, 3 devil, 4.
I was
5 devil, 6
watching
devil,
the
7
thing
devil,
with-
more.
I was watching this thing about Alon and Nava, and he was talking about like how these ISIS is created is because like these are not human beings, so like the devil or the Satan wives and all this stuff, and that's why it came.
No, I mean, I understand.
Did you say ISIS? I missed you on the ISIS.
Yeah, she said ISIS.
As soon as you're on ISIS, I'm off the cliff going,
not
that
human
makes
beings.
sense.
Yeah, they're
Everything
like-
we talk about totally makes sense.
So
My
like they go
concern-
into like the host of these devils, they go into the host of this body, and that's why they do like this dehumanizing things like chopping people's heads.
Well, they're not Jewish.
Listen, the idea really is still, though, you have to understand, it works. I don't think this is just for Jewish folk.
That's what I was going to
I
say.
don't think this is limited to just Jews. This is limited to souls in general. And what kind of evil inclination are you going to infuse the child with? And it makes sense that if both the parent, the mother, and the father would have the right thoughts that infuse the child, and even if they're not let's say they're not having children anymore for whatever reason, either they're beyond years or they get birth control because of specific reasons. Really, you're not allowed to have birth control in the Torah law, but there are certain circumstances where you can. You have to go to a rabbi for that, and have a conversation. Okay,
So
but let's say it is authorized. There still is in the union. There's a huge soul that is created from that union.
Well,
Okay.
that's the thing. So like the Satan wives, like when you like waste cedar, they pick it all up, and I guess it transfers somewhere else. I don't remember what he said.
What do you
Who
think?
said?
Alon and Nava.
Well, of course. Okay, yeah.
When you still see demons collected.
But
and
that's what
transferred
happened
to
with
ISIS.
Adam Arishon. Adam Arishon separated from his wife for 130 years, and who came was these 2 ladies with cerveza and tequila
Margarita.
and cerveza and a hot tub and a lot of and some and he gave birth to hybrids for 130 years. These hybrids, which was the seed that was spilled, the dark forces took that and created a monster in the spiritual realm. And this is why, we say in Jerusalem, the custom is that children don't go to the funerals of their parents in case the parent had a seminal emission and then the seed was not rectified. And therefore, there's a hybrid child who's coming to the funeral and wants his pound of flesh. He wants his cut. He wants his sustenance. He wants us and part of the inheritance. Okay? So, by the way, just to let you know, Rabbi Nachman, Baruch Hashem, came up with 10 Tehillim, 10 Psalms. You say it's called Tikkun Klali, which rectifies any seminal emissions of the past. And it brings the holy sparks out of the dark side back into the side of holiness.
But how much
okay?
is the education really going to work? I mean, you could say...
It's training!
Because if somebody is
2 months?
intrinsically...
2 months.
No, if somebody is intrinsically just a nasty person, you could say, look, do this, this, and this, and they're never going to really get that. Like,
Okay.
if
You got a good.
understand
You
that
have
God
You have an
creates-
amazing question. You have an amazing question. So good. So now I sing from what your question is. There has to be a preliminary kind of idea of, hey, maybe this could be better.
So
Okay?
if there's thoughts create actions.
Let's stop now.
Which
Okay.
is,